igniting the battle to secure our border, warning that there will be consequences for those who come here illegally.
We're looking at a lot of things. Really what we want to do is change the immigration laws because they're a laughing stock all over the world.
Are you willing, though? I think you're saying it's under consideration.
No, I want all the laws changed. There have to be consequences, Leslie, for coming into our country illegally.
With one section of our new border wall just completed, what else needs to be done to secure the border? That's the question this morning. Here now to debate is conservative radio talk show host Chandelle Summer and former spokesperson for House Democrats Andrea Riccio. Guys, thanks so much for coming on this morning. We appreciate it. You know, the president asked about the family separation deal, and he was not afraid to say that, listen, we needed something to deter these families from coming across the border. Chandelle, what did you think of that answer?
Family separation has been something that previous administrations have used as well to fight the immigration problem. In fact, President Obama had the same policy and had his attorney general at the time argue that it was a deterrent to persons crossing the border illegally.
But apparently it wasn't enforced under Obama, is what we understand, right?
It wasn't enforced to the degree that it, correct. It wasn't enforced to the degree that it has been with President Trump. And of course, there was widespread attention garnered when you had 2,000 or so children separated from their parents back in the spring. Since then, President Trump reconsidered and put in a new policy, which not necessarily a better policy, because some of the children are now held indefinitely in detention under the new policy. So it's a very complicated issue. It's not. There's no simple answer to it.
It's a tough issue to win. You're exactly right. It is very complicated. Andrea, over to you. You know, 50,000, something like 50,000 illegal immigrants caught every month coming across the border. Something has to be done. What did you think of that answer that he gave?
Sure. I think last night on 60 Minutes, we saw President Trump really double down on the policy of separating immigrant children from their parents at the southern border. And I think, you know, once he saw how that was playing out, he decided against it. And so looking at the midterm elections on November 6th, we see Democrats and independents, suburban moms, young voters saying, we don't want children to be separated from their parents at the southern border. We need to figure out a holistic fix to this situation.
Okay, we're going to move to the governor's race in Georgia, actually, and we want to listen to a soundbite that was captured by a cell phone from Stacey Abrams. Let's listen.
The thing of it is, the blue wave is African American. Yeah. It's white, it's Latino, it's Asian Pacific Islander. Yeah. It is made up of those who've been told that they are not worthy of being here. Yeah. It is comprised of those who are documented and undocumented. Yeah.
So, you know, Andrea, I want to start with you on this one. The embrace of illegal immigration by the Democratic Party, you know, for Republicans, and I think if you ask most Americans, do they believe that somebody should be able to come here illegally and then also be allowed to vote? Most Americans are going to say that doesn't make a lot of sense. What do you think about the embrace of this issue by your party?
Sure. Look, since the Supreme Court overturned parts of the Voting Rights Act, we have seen secretaries of state across the country do things to suppress the vote. We have seen legitimate voters being taken off the rolls in states so that when folks show up to the polling booth, they're not allowed to vote. That's a real problem. On the world stage, you know, everyone looks up to America as this wonderful democracy, and we need to be that democracy. So we need to be ensuring that everyone...
Right, but what about illegal immigrants? I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. What about people that come here illegally?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have strong laws to ensure that only people who are registered, but we need to, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can make sure that people who should be voting are voting and people who shouldn't be voting aren't voting. Okay, does that,
Chandelle, does that answer satisfy you?
Well, voter ID laws are very reasonable restrictions on voting rights. The idea that you have to have an ID card to vote is not something that I think most people find offensive.
Yeah.
Stacey Abrams' comments about illegal immigrants being included in the blue wave were probably designed to attract those voters who may have a relative who is undocumented or, as Andrea mentioned, more moderate voters in the state of Georgia.
Okay. Yeah, it was an interesting comment, especially in red Georgia. I was surprised to hear her say it. It was caught on a cell phone camera. It might be a comment she ends up regretting. Ladies, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.